What do you do in situations where you find yourself carrying some things that you no longer need? Where do you drop them off? If they're people, how do you drop them off? What do you do when you've come to the realization that you have a person around you that no longer serves anything in your life? And not to say that they were there to be a servant, but what do you do when you find out that that person's a distraction? And regardless of conversation, you know they're about to stand on their distractions. You know that's just how they are. You understand them for that. How do you handle that? I'm saying this all just because there are a few people who I know who I'm probably not going to talk to again on purpose. Like if we bump into each other chest to chest, donk. Um, in a crowded festival or something, of course I'll speak. If I see them at a function, of course I'll speak. But me reaching out to them, probably not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So, when it comes to cutting fat, how do you do that? Sometimes it's very necessary. And sometimes it's a matter of life and death. Welcome to episode 44. Sorry for my language. Oh, I love the horns. Nothing like a good celebration. I don't know. It's something festive about that song. I don't know what it is. I like how that song, that little funk riff, I like how that comes off. Just kind of makes me feel good. A lot of things to feel good about right now. There's some bonds that you have with people that are just always cool, but it's cool if y'all go your separate ways. And there's some bonds that are not cool, and that's why you went your separate ways, right? Well, I'm just saying that, just prefacing today on this episode of Sorry for My Language, because today I'm going to a friend's 50th birthday party. Shout him out. And remember, the birthdays with the zeros and the birthdays with the fives, those are the ones as the birthdayer. Like if you're the person whose birthday it is, those are the ones where you send out the invitations, you celebrate. Maybe like the younger fives don't matter. Like 25 is cool, but that don't really matter. 15 don't really matter. I remember my 15th birthday. We went to I think we fooled around and went to Skates. It was me and my homie Bo and my homie Will. Shout out to y'all. We were wearing that horn out, but the air horn lets you know that's what I mean. That means you my man, right? I remember my 15th birthday. It was not such a big deal. As a teenager, you want edge on the 16. That means something. 17 is kind of cool, but it's not one of them ones. 25, that ain't really one of them ones. 35, you can have it up if you want to, but ain't nobody care. Don't nobody care. I had something. Hold up. We're going to do this anyway. Ain't nobody care. Ain't nobody care. I want the distance for y'all on that effect. But 35, 45. I remember the first time I heard of somebody having a 45th birthday of somebody I knew. It was cool. It was a congratulations, you made it that far, but I didn't really care either. But then when you get up, like 55 matters, because it's like, okay, I think that's when you cross over into what they call a senior citizen. And if it's not when you call it senior, maybe 65 is, but at least you get benefits of some sort. And if you made 55 and you stepping heavy, man, that's a good look. Life is shone upon you. And then, all the other fives rock out. But the zeros, it's my man's 50th birthday, and I had to clean up for it a little bit, haircut, you know what I'm saying? I had to get right for my man's joint. But when it comes to the friends who you have and it's time to make some space, there are several instances in which you might not want to, but you have to. And that's how I'm leading up to this thing. I've had several friends where I've seen that they're getting into some things that's going to really cost them. And if I'm around them, then from a distance, I am them. I had to separate myself. I just want you to keep that in mind, regardless of what it is that the person is doing. It could be dangerous. It could be whatever it is, but it could just be something that leads to a path that's not your future. You might have to make some space because from a distance, you are them. This is a juicy lead up. But today, what we're talking about on episode 44, sorry for my language, you've all had enough time. It's been about a month. I'm going to talk about Sinners, the movie Sinners. And if you haven't seen it, then you're probably not going to see it. So you may as well check this out. And you'll see how I loop on back to that. Now, Sinners is a movie that was put out by Ryan Coogler from Oakland, California.
Oakland, California, that's where I'm from. Don't stop macking. Don't stop tapping. Don't stop macking. Don't stop tapping. Don't stop macking.
Oakland, California's own Ryan Coogler put out, he just don't miss, right? He got the Creed series, Fruitvale Station, Black Panther, and Sinners. The man does not miss with his films. And Michael B. Jordan, it's crazy because I was just watching an episode of The Wire. I didn't even realize that was Michael B. Jordan in The Wire. Okay, I'm late for that. Michael B. Jordan, I don't know how old he is, but he's about to get a Lifetime Achievement Award for what he's done already in Black cinema and TV series and all that. All the flowers, man. Can't wait to see how his career continues to unfold. But I have a question. What is your main takeaway from the movie Sinners? Yours. Take a little time, gather yourself. Like, what is your main takeaway? I had several takeaways from it. And some of them led me to take those things away into my real life. So, first of all, for those of you who are unfamiliar, or let's just rehash if you are familiar, Sinners is a movie about a 30s family from Mississippi, around the Delta in Mississippi. The Bubba Gump Shrimp South. And, well, it's not necessarily a family. Let's just call it a family. It was a small town. Two brothers came from that town, and when they were in the town, when they was well, they was hell. They was tearing it apart. And they had, those brothers' names were Smoke and Stack, both played by Michael B. Jordan. He took Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor's lead and took it to a whole nother thing. Like, I'm gonna play two people in the same movie who interact with one another. So that was impressive off rip. So Smoke and Stack, they came from Mississippi, and they got up out of town and went to Chicago, right? As many people did in that era via train. So they go up to Chicago, they get the city life, they get the hustle, they get the business, they come back with the suits, and they got some money, right? So then they come back, and they want to create a area in the town, a facility in the town that is a entertainment hub that they can make money off of, like they saw them boys getting it up north. Okay, so the South is real slow at that time in comparison to the North. So they buy a piece of property and they go out, scout talent, they find talent, they get it popping. And then all the excitement starts. So now, when I was just at home visiting my grandmother last month, earlier this month, whenever, a couple weeks ago, um, I asked her about sharecropping. And for those of you all who don't know, let's put it on a timeline for you, okay? I wish I had like a Jeopardy. I wish I had that sound effect. But you had slavery. Boom. Slavery brought it all to the slave owner. Every penny of it. Boom. Right? So you had slavery. Then after slavery, now this is here in America. After slavery, you had what was called the Reconstruction period. Now, this was a period in which Black people were, I can't say left alone, but it was more of an allowance for you to do you. But at the same time, Black people were also promised 40 acres and a mule as reparations for everything that they had been through, so then they can start their own life. Now, shout out to Spike Lee, but the 40 acres and a mule, of course, was never given. So then Black people had to be creative with their hustles. Well, with limited resources in a fast-moving, slow world, there was only so much that you could resource. So the white people needed cotton picked. The white people needed tobacco picked. The white people needed sugarcane processed. They needed all that stuff. So they offered Black people a chance to pretty much get paid for slave duties, previous slave duties. But the payment that they would get, it came in two forms. And this was captured in the movie. All right. But I saw it in the movie and it made me think about what my grandmother told me. What made me ask her. And then so this is what I'm relaying to you. But the payment came in a couple of forms. Depending on where it was, if the work was done on a plantation, sometimes the person who the white people, I'm trying to be like politically correct, man. These crackers was crackers. So sometimes they would pay you in plantation money that wasn't redeemable anywhere outside of the plantation to keep you powerless, right? But then sometimes they would pay the people in US coin, but it was only a couple of dollars for a week, which is kind of where they got the bright idea of prison payment. Right? So I asked my grandma, I was like, tell me what you remember about sharecropping? And she was like, well, a white man would come in town and they would get a Black family, and now it's not like they kidnap them. The Black family would, of course, volunteer for such work because they had no other way of making money at that time. Now, this isn't fresh out of slavery, but this is before any laws were on the books that made anything possibly lucrative. And this is shortly after Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street was bombed. So you got lucrative people, you got people with great ideas doing something, but then they get attacked. And then you got other people with limited resources. So in T ways, I asked my grandmother, tell me about sharecropping. So she said a white family would come in town, or a white man would come in town on a wagon or with the truck or whatever they was pushing. And he would get a Black family, the mom, the dad, the kids, the old people, whoever was in this family, they would get them. Everybody would get in this vehicle and they would drive to the white man's plantation to the cotton field. And in the cotton fields what she saw from her perspective. Now, she was born in 1925, so this is definitely of age to see and register memories, even as a participant. Um, she saw rows and rows of cotton. She grew up in Texas. This was in Mississippi. And you would have families out there picking cotton. Now, I've never picked cotton. Only out of a window driving on a Texas highway have I even seen cotton grow. And so within the cotton boll, and that's what a little puff of cotton is, it's a lot of spikes, a lot of thorns protecting that cotton. And so she explained that the men who were the ones, the veterans at doing this, they had these rags wrapped around their hands, and they would just be able to pick 3 cotton rows at a time. They would just be shifting, kind of like how you see Kyrie and AI with their crossovers and all that. Like she said, they just had it, right? And it was amazing to just watch them do it as a kid. And then they would pick so much cotton that the bags that they would bring in would be dragging. Now, next time you're around a cotton ball, drop it in any type of container and see if it has any type of weight to make the bag drag. It probably doesn't. So to pick pounds and pounds of cotton, you have to go through a lot of thorns and a whole lot of sun and dirt to do it. So the whole family, on down to the children, they would be picking cotton. And then they would do this. I can't remember. I think they would get picked up on a Friday, go to the plantation, and then they would get dropped off. Wait, no. I can't remember. I think they get picked up on a Monday, and then they get dropped off on a Friday. They get dropped back off at their home because Black people love to go to church, is what she told me. And this is the reality of a lot of Black people in America. This is how you might be off in your penthouse. This is how your people started not too long ago. I'm talking about in the same century that you were born. Some people who you kicked it with, they saw this, they did this. They probably don't talk about it though, right? So so in the late 40s, early 50s, a lot of Black people started to migrate up to Northern Territory because they wanted to get out of the South because sharecropping just wasn't it, and they heard that there was opportunity north. So when I saw one of the opening scenes in Sinners, and I saw that I saw the guys dragging the bags of cotton, that made me think about what Nana had told me, right? And so when I went back and just talked to her, I just wanted to get some detail on that, because the idea of dragging a bag of cotton is almost like filling up a bag of confetti and making that bag so big that it weighs 100 pounds. 100 pounds of confetti, picking it up with your hands. It's crazy. There are even some prisons, I don't know if they still do this, but they would make them cut the grass with their fingers. So they'd be out there picking the grass blades neatly till the whole field was like that. So it's really a sadistic way of treating people. In various ways, people still do menial jobs that have been normalized, but the slave owner, for lack of a better term, even in corporate America, they do this not only for their convenience, but for their entertainment. And we kind of got to get hip to that. But just seeing back to Sinners, just seeing it in the movie where the people were picking cotton as families. And Nana, by the way, she was like, ooh, the Texas heat and the thorns from those cotton bolls turned her off. So she would always get out there and play woozy or sick. And then they would let her sit. She told me they would let her sit under the wagon and drink water all day. As a young adolescent. But seeing that, I was glad that Ryan Coogler captured the essence of that nuance that existed in America, of several people who we know, or knew growing up. And this goes for people younger than me and people older than me. They just probably didn't tell you about it. So they pick cotton. and they got their little coins and they went back into town. Another interesting thing about the town that they showed in Sinners was the fact that there was a black area, and then you had to go up the street or across the tracks. I can't remember how they had divided. It might even be just the opposite side of the street. But then there were white stores. Okay. And so to talk about the South in America, but to leave that out, that would be wrong. And so once again, talking to my mother and my grandmother, they told me that there were some, now this is in Texas, but Mississippi, the South shared morals, right? So it's not like it's different. But I wanted to bounce some of this information off people who I know, right? So there were some places where white and black would share the same facility, but blacks had to eat over here and white people had to eat over there. And the black people couldn't be served on the same side of the restaurant. So America's South, America's root, America's financial DNA is based in racism. And that hasn't changed, but that's where it started. And so just for that movie to capture that, even though it seemed like that wasn't a real part of what happened, it was certain stuff that he put in the movie that I was like, oh, he captured that. And so I also found it interesting in the movie where when Smoke and Stack, those are the twin brothers who Ryan Coogler played, when they came down from Mississippi, they were talking, when they came down from Chicago, because they had left to go to Chicago and they came back and they had money and they went to open something. When they came back, somebody was like, man, what was it like? He was like, man, it's just like Mississippi, but with tall buildings, and with that, they spoke to, even though it was lucrative for them, it was still racist and it was still a hierarchy based on owner and worker, and that was usually white versus black. And so without harping on those issues, the movie exposed those issues early in speaking on the American dynamic. Now, when it comes to American corporate black people or corporate friendly black people, there are a lot of black people who think that the more you imitate whiteness, the more successful you'll be. As a matter of fact, I know I got at least 3 people in my phone who I won't name. But if there was a price that you could pay to be white, I got at least 3 black people in my phone. If you could pay a price, if there was a fee that you could pay to be white, they would be white. They would. It's something about the experience, the exposure, the teaching that they've had, being black, where it only has value to them around white women, but it doesn't have any value to them within. And the way that they behave, they abandon, sneak diss, overtly disrespect as well. Everything that is born of black culture. But they could wear black culture as a medal around white women because they know that white women want kunta, so they'll kunta up on the white woman. But everywhere else, they puppy dogging for white people, white culture, thinking that they can get acceptance. It's really weird to me. We're going to call it Stockholm Syndrome. But anyway, that was a little tangent. But there are so many ways in which black people had to be creative to get over. They had to do so many things to get to where they were comfortable within themselves. And a lot of it involved, as this movie captured, a lot of it involved them sticking to who they came to America as, sticking to their African heritage. So there was I'm skipping around, but I want to start at the beginning. So in the beginning, it was beautiful that Saul Williams, for those of you all who don't know who Saul Williams is, Check him out. Saul Williams was the preacher in the church. And he was the father of the young man who was kind of the central figure in the movie, whose passion was music. Now, the dope thing about this was that as the young man who was playing music, he was first seen with this guitar that looked like a banjo made out of a piece of a wash basin or something like that. But it, like a put together joint. But it was a hell of an instrument and he could play it. So he was walking around with that. He told his pops he wanted to go to town and he wanted to play this music. And the whole time, Pops was trying to guide him around. Pops was trying to guide him around the church and telling him, like, what he was going to play in church tomorrow or whatever. And the boy was like, man, I got to get it tonight, Pops. I got to get this dream tonight. And then his father told him something that was one of my biggest takeaways from the movie. He said, son, if you dance with the devil might just come home with you. Man, the profundity of that. Pops broke it down like Jenga. And I was just like, oh, okay. This is going to be a heater. And that's kind of how the movie started. If you dance with the devil, be careful because the devil might follow you home. It was something like that. So he went with his guitar. He's walking around, smoking, Stacker driving around. They do their recruiting going through town, and they find young homie, right? They find him. So he's pushing around in this car. They're driving through the cotton fields. These are the successful black dudes, right? The hustlers came back. So he's in a privileged seat, leaving the church, rolling with Smoke and Stack. And they're like, man, where are the guys who get busy with the music? So they find this piano. What did he play the piano? Anyway, Delroy Lindo's character. I can't remember his name in the movie, but he was a piano player. And he was like an old school piano player, had the people. I swear, in the movie, I didn't know if they were trying to make him this character or if it just happened to be, but he looked just like that, just like the legend, the blues jazz legend, Howlin' Wolf. If you look at Howlin' Wolf and then you listen to Howlin' Wolf's music, I swear this is who Delroy Lindo was supposed to be. But maybe it was just like a character extraction from a real person, but he played it well. So they get him, and he was talking about, he said something dope too. He said, it doesn't matter how much you get paid, but how long you get paid that for. I was like, ooh, that's a key. It don't matter how much somebody's willing to pay you, but how long they can pay you. And he was like, I could play this chitlin circuit for the rest of my life. Y'all city slickers coming in town thinking y'all could just flash a bill and get me up out my chair and, do it. But whatever. He had a little negotiation because he was a vet. He was an OG at what he did. And then the intrigue entered. Water break. The white lady. The white lady. So they're at this train station, right? And the train back in the day meant everything. So people would dress up to get on the train. Train was, that's the people coming in town, the people leaving town, the people who had something to do. I got somewhere to go. So they're at the train station smoking Stack, at which point he sees, I can't remember which one was smoking, which one was Stack. They were both Michael B. Jordan, but he sees this lady who he used to deal with. She's attractive white lady, but in the South, she white. And it's a no-no. So I'm thinking I'm thinking he's on a crash course to things being all bad the way he sees it, but apparently he used to fool with her, right? So with him about to talk to her and bring her into the fold, I was like, oh, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And matter of fact, me saying don't do it, in Oakland at the Grand Lake Theater, this movie was premiered with Ryan Coogler hosting the premiere. And at the premiere, I was told that he told the audience, look, I want y'all to yell at the screen, talk to the screen. I want y'all to react the way you really want to react. Don't try to be polite, but I want to see what this movie does to people. So, Ryan, in this part of the movie at the train station, when she comes up and she's screaming on him and she's like, you left me and I loved you and all that, right? I was like, oh, shit. Oh, damn it. Don't tangle with this white lady. And he was firm. Homie was firm. He had a backbone. And she was like, my mother took you in the house and my mother did all this for you. And he was like, yep, she was just a safe place to stay. I loved him for that. He was firm. It was cold, but it was firm. But he knew the rules. And he was mean to her, even though she was coming up to him aggressively. And she was coming up to him in a way where any less of a man would have reacted to her and been in an argument with her, and it would have gone wrong. But he was firm. But she was mad. She was determined to follow him. She was determined to figure out where it was. And then the brother got weak. He got weak. He got weak because she was white. The man wanted the forbidden fruit that he once had. So the one wearing red, and this is another nuance. There was one of the brothers wore red, one of them wore blue. Okay, and I was like, oh, that might be an America thing, like a Black America. This is part of America. Red, black, and blue, right? Red, black, and blue. How about that? So one of them, the one wearing blue, the brother, he really had all his faculties about him when it came to business. The other one, he was more of he was more susceptible to his pleasures and desires, right? But they were twins, and so they were joined in every way, but they just had different ways of attaching to their id, So the white lady, she's now in the fold. She's upset, and I'm just like, damn it, this is going to come back to bite them. Lesson. This is going to come back to bite them. Not knowing how, but I just know it's a bad look. And not just because she's white, but because she's white in the South at that time. Bad look. So they want to build this jazz house, function place. They go by it, and it's old gunslinging white man up in that joint. Fat dude. So it's something about, he got this shit with him, right? So he sold them the property. They bought the property in cash or whatever, and they was like, now if we see you again around here, this is Smoke and Stack, the black dudes talking to the white dude. We gonna kill you where you stand. They said something one of them all. We gonna kill you where you stand. You gonna lay in your boots. I can't remember what they said, but it was something like that. And so there was no more visitation on the property. Dudes didn't come back. The white man's, the white dude even told him at that moment, he was like, hey, the Klan has been disassembled for a long time now. Like, the Klan ain't gonna come around and fool with you. You got it. All right, bet. We got it. Okay, cool. So they hella quick. I don't know how quick they did this. I don't know if this was this all in a day or was it in 24 hours? Whatever it was, they built this club and got the talent and got the word out to the people supremely quick. And they had the piano dude and Delroy Lindo's character. They had the people from the town because Smoke and Stack had the juice, so they got the word out to the people, tell them, come on. People started coming. They had the homeboy from church who could play his guitar and sing, and they got a white lady, right? So they got elements. But then one of the brothers, the one with the more business sensible mind, whatever, he went to go see his old lady. He went to go see his old boo from back in the day, and she was a herb woman. She had the herbs and the mixtures and the mojo and all that, right? So she would make these little packets of herbs that go around your neck, and she made him one for protection, right? And she would rock one. And in real life, my great grandmother used to do this. I was around for my great grandmother too, but she passed when I was 3 years old, so I didn't see all this. But these are just the stories I've heard, right? So like these little satchels of herbs that would keep bad spirits away. This is one of the things that was the lady's specialty who he went to go visit. So he goes to see her. He's fresh dressed. She ain't seen him in a minute. And then they get to smacking. He gets her over the table. It's all love. It's that good love. Man, she missed him. He missed her. They love each other. They were probably better suited not getting together, what they thought, but they couldn't resist each other. They couldn't resist. So they get together, right? Shout out to them. Black love. And she decides to come to the joint as well, right? So everybody who they could gather, they wanted to make this place one of the most jumpingest spots. And eventually, the doors open to the joint, right? Now, cut away from the function of the Deep South, the black and white, the building of it. This was a build it and they will come type joint. Cut away from that. You got this, you in the South, so it's just several white people who don't interact with black people. They cut to this scene, and it's this dude. This white dude. He got sores all over him. He just looks totally blitzed. The sun is almost down, and he finds the door of this white family, this white couple, not even a family. He knocks on the door. He's like, "Hey, they're after me. The Choctaw, the Indians are after me, man. They tried to kill me." And he's looking crazy. His skin is smoking. It looks like he just got set on fire. Something is wrong with the dude, right? He drops out of nowhere. Boom. And then, like, one of them comes to the door with a shotgun, and the lady, his wife, like, the lady and the man, they're both scared, but they're about to try to kill him. Then this is where it comes in. He shows him a gold coin, and he's like, "Look, I'll give you this. Just let me in the house. I need somewhere to stay." Now, that gold coin to them represented big value, right? And even though they saw this man was dirty as a warthog, smoking, open sores, lesions, they said, "You know what? We'll take that. Come on in." They let him in. They invited him in. Seconds after being in, with his admission being something shiny, stay with me, something shiny, they knew that they let in somebody they should not have let in. But the something shiny, they made a concession. Ain't this where we all fuck up? Something shiny will get some loser past the gates that should have been kept. But he shows something shiny. After minutes of being in there, he goes upstairs where the man is, bites him all up, blood all over everything, blood on the leaves, and just, devours the man. And then he has this glow in his eyes, and the man has a glow in his eyes. Oh, shining stars. They're vampires now. They let a vampire in the house. Damn. So now it's 2 vampires in the house. And there's 1 non-vampire in the house. Well, that only lasted a second. Now there's 3 vampires in the house, and it's nighttime. and they got to go out and see what's good. So let's get back to the juke joint that they just built. The juke joint is popping. It is extremely wonderful. Bam, bam. Everybody got it going on. Good to see everybody. They got the big homie Cornbread at the door. Big Cornbread. He's the doorman. Everybody's happy to see everybody. People ain't jammed out like this in this town in forever. Right? And there's several elements to this. So one of them is the music that they were not willing to disconnect themselves from. Actually, that connected them. It just got them into they just lathered up in the exuberance that the music brought to their spirits. And then the way that it went through generations of music and it just connected their blackness and their souls and their spirits, all these black people in this place, from the church music, even on down to generations that were yet to be born in their musical expression of hip hop. The musical scene in this movie, it has got to be the best scene in cinema since, I don't know, Mookie throwing the trash can through the window and do the right thing. Like it's a scene of scenes, right? So it's for that'll give you the price of admission alone. Just this musical scene in this juke joint and how it brings everybody to their highest self. Even watching this scene almost will get you high. It's extremely dope, and it shows you the importance of music and the message that is carried in the music through the artist. Which, sidebar, brings me to the difference between artists and entertainers and the fact that they do have a place where they both meet. Artists carry the message. Artists have to get the message out. Artists almost by birth agreement cannot die with the message in. Artists have to get that out. Entertainers, they more so give the people what the people want, regardless of what that is. So entertainers are a little more, they're wishy-washy in nature. They're more like the distraction. Artists become the focus. However, great artists become entertainers because it is entertaining watching somebody be excellent at what they do. Great entertainers can sometimes become artists because they turn their entertainment into an art. But a lot of the times, artists and entertainers can very visibly sit on different sides of that musical riverbank. So this scene, it was a message from the ancestors about the artists and the entertainers, and it was just beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And it brought you into just the beauty that comes from the mud of the South and from their ancestral roots in Africa, right? So all this is going on, and you have vampires in the distance, right? So the first thing that the white vampire who got dropped off, and I'm saying white vampire because eventually they're white and black, but he got dropped off. He said that the Indians tried to do him in. Well, shortly after that, the Native American Choctaws came to those people's door. They were like, look, we know that you have somebody very deadly in there. He's harmful. We only have limited time to work. You should not have let him in. But the fact that you let him in is going to go bad real quick. And the people, the couple at the door, they said they were, nah, we're all right. It's cool. It's good. That's our guy. It was like, all right, peace. And then the Choctaws rolled off. Now, the way that the Choctaws showed up, I was like, oh, they seem like masters of the land, and the way they was just layered, like one in the front, 2 or 3 in the back. Like they had a squad, and they were on the horses. They looked like the ones who knew the stuff that you need to know in that terrain. And I would love to see a part 2 of Sinners that spoke more on them, because they meant something to the movie, but they were just in there briefly. So they rolled off. So this juke joint is super popping. Everybody's happy. You know, the white lady from the joint, she came up to the spot. And then in the town, there were these Asian people who own markets, similar to the way it is now in black neighborhoods. Like the Asian people own the markets. But they were cool. They were allies to the blacks. They were up in the joint. Everybody's in this thing, getting this thing super right, making sure it's a great experience, making sure everybody has what they need. And then with all this music being so attractive, you have the vampires also being attracted, right? So they knock on the door. Cornbread don't let them in, right? And then so they go outside and they're playing their little music, and their music is so damn corny. And it's just crazy how black music is just always superior, always. I can't say a black person made that, but anyway. By the way, I went to a Parliament Funkadelic concert last night, and I was just like, damn, we just got that thing, huh? We just super duper got that thing. And so the vampires came to the door, and then the lessons started kicking in. This is the first one. Now, I told you one of them brothers was weak for the white lady, right? So he even invited her to the joint. So she's up in this on her own. She wants to get what she wants to get out of it. She's not part of the whole, okay? She's up in there with her own agenda. All right, and so it's like, dang, come on, Missy Pooh. How you gonna mess up what we got going on? We got this thing really popping. How you showing up like this? Anyway, she showed up, and so you have these weird ass white people with glowing eyes outside playing instruments, and when they're playing the instruments, it's we just want to come inside and hear y'all's music too, and so they were like, no, you cannot. So then the white lady's like, wait, I think I can talk to them. Now, you already been informed that these folks is dangerous, right? You already been informed that you can't fool with it. But no, here she go breaking the ranks, trying to sit with them, trying to kick it with them. Okay? So she goes outside like Curious Karen and gets to fucking with these demons. Man, how many times have we heard this story, right? So she goes and defects to them. Well, guess what they did to her? Mm-hmm. You got it. Turn them into vampire. They turned her into a vampire too. Now, the vampires they would totally look regular, but they carried this spirit that was toxic, to say the very least. Toxic and deadly. And I think I know a couple vampires for real. I do. So she goes back into the joint, and then she goes into a back room, kicks it with one of the brothers, and then gives him the vampire HIV. So now one of the brothers got the joint. So now once you allow something in to your presence, it can spread. So now inside the joint, people are getting vampired out. They run outside. A lot of the people run outside like it on some we got to escape this joint. I mean, fights start happening, fires kick off, like, it gets rowdy, right? So then the vampires, everybody who had been turned off into a vampire, they wanted everybody who wasn't a vampire to turn into one. So they up there biting and chewing and doing all types of wild shit to people. But then they finally, within the facility, they get all the vampires out. And I can't remember which of the wise people it was in there, but they said, and they were attracted by the music, don't forget. But they said, listen, the only way the evil spirit can enter is if you invite it in. which for me was the biggest takeaway of the movie. And so they would ask to come in and they would say no. Then they would ask to come in and it'd be like, no, no, no. And eventually they were invited in by somebody who lacked the patience to just wait until the morning when if they had when the lady had the discipline to just exercise her patience, even though it was tragic and all that, they would have fried. They would have all got fried in the sunlight. Okay. So I say all this to say that from that, I extracted that patience is a virtue. Number one. Number two, if there are evil things, evil spirits, there are things that you know you can't fool, that you should not be fooling with, toxins of any type. The only way they affect your whole orb is if you invite them in. You are responsible for this. You're responsible for the ups and downs because you've invited something into a space where it didn't belong. Another thing that I got from this is Black people. Blacks. Why? Oh, why? Are you so weak to everything that is white? Time and time and time and time and time again, you give whiteness an easier path to access in your life. It don't even have to go through the same vetting process. Why? Why? So I thought that was a not so subtle message in the movie as well. You know, and then just beyond color, you invite the things that you usually don't like, and then they usually end up showing you why you shouldn't have liked them. And eventually, the day came, mayhem occurred, disaster occurred, and just like the movie started, the movie ended. The boy ends up with the church clutching this guitar that he made, and he goes back in the church, and the church is looking at him like, "Damn, like what's wrong with this dude?" But the whole thing is he held on to his dream. As an artist, as somebody with the message to bring, he held on to his purpose. His purpose was making that music. But the problem was he danced with the devil, and the devil followed him home. That movie was like that. That movie had so many things going on in it, so many lessons in it, so many lessons of our past. You know, how many of you all reach into your herbal healing past, your ancestral path of self-healing and community healing with the things you can grow? There was even a scene where the lady who was the healer who got pregnant from her interaction with one of the brothers, she was like, listen, if I get bit by one of these vampires, you got to promise to kill me. You got to promise to drive a stake through my heart so I don't kill all these other folks. So he kept his promise and he killed her with the stake through the heart, right? And when he was as also a vampire, he's going through it. One thing that he would not do, which was admirable, he would not kill his brother. And I thought that that was cool. Like they went through everything, they meant everything to everyone, but he would not go bad on his brother. And eventually, when it was between him and her, he saw that on the other side of life, like from this life to death, he saw that on the other side, his lady was waiting over there with his baby. And then so he just allowed himself to be taken out so then he could like rid himself of the curse of living forever, which is also another curse of vampires. It's living forever. You know, if you don't graduate from this life, your life kind of sucks. And even though nobody wants to die, you can't inherit any of the gifts of the life cycle if you just stay here forever with like a human physical address. You can't get what's out there for you to get. And so if you've ever been around somebody who knows they're about to pass away, regardless of what they did in their life, good, bad, or whatever, they have moments in which they are communicating with the other side. Like Tupac, I see death around the corner. You know, or somebody might refer to, depending on how their life went, like a happy place, you know? And so in that movie, just that interaction with him having these moments where he was communicating with the other side, I thought that was like a nice little addition to some real shit that happens, you know? And I just don't think any details were left out in this movie. Um, and I don't think they need to rush a part two, but I would like to see the Choctaw Indians involved or natives involved in part two a little more. Later, after you thought the movie was over, they went 50 years later to 1992, 50 or 60 years, because I can't remember if the first part was in the 30s or the 40s, but they went to 1992. And then here it is, mixed race hip hop couple, right? Or like, you know, black and white, not like they were mixed, but, you know, they walk into a bar and then they approach the main character who was the guitar player in the church, who was aged at this time, played by Buddy Guy, who's a blues jazz guy in real life. They approached him. They wanted to kick it with him, but he was like, "Nah, I'm good. You know, I'm good." And it just showed how the cycle repeats itself. And either you learn the lessons or you don't learn the lessons, but the cycle repeats itself. So if you're in your life, at what point do you decide to learn the lesson of the cycle and separate from people who you would have once joined? As a boy, he joined them. He was down with smoking stack. As an elder, he realized, you know what? We got to go our separate ways. At what point do you learn that? That was another lesson in the movie as well. So it was just jewel after gem after jewel after gem. And I've only seen it once. Now, this is an automatic, you got to see it twice movie. But I wanted to absorb some of this before I just ran off and watched it twice and was just overdone. And I told a friend, I was like, look, when you see this movie, you got to sit back after the movie and process it. It ain't even something that you're going to be rattling off talking about several things about it. You got to process this movie. And, you know, in several ways I did process it. I processed it on how my real life relatives and people, and even like what got me here, how certain events happen in the Black American diaspora, you know, from the South to the Great Migration that got me to where I ended up existing in California, like how that even existed, what some of my grandpeople had to go through. You know, I thought that's valuable history, and it wasn't packaged as a history lesson. I'm glad that was exposed on such a mass media level. And just the trappings of your own temptation. I'm glad that was shown that, you know, if it's going bad, take a look in the mirror. You probably invited something bad. You know, so while you could point over there and say it's them, it is them. Don't invite them. Don't try to be like them. Don't get Stockholm syndrome. Not now. Not now. Because those people who you want to save you, they're sinners. I'm Grindstone. Go to grindstoneuniversal.com. Get fresh like me. It's where progress is made, where truth is revealed. Till next time, sorry for my language.